Call to order this meeting of the USD 262 Board of Education. The first 5 minutes will be a hearing regarding the out-of-district enrollment policy, beginning at 7 o'clock. Do we have anybody? Well, since nobody has signed up to talk, we get to look at one another for 5 minutes. They're waiting. Huh? I know, but it's a long 5 minutes. Yeah. You have permission.
She gave me public comments on all.
No.
Tonight, we're speaking in the mics. Since it's streamed, you want to make sure. Not that I don't trust you.
That's a wise man.
Still 4 minutes left.
Yeah, so. Did you go through this? Justin. He periodically,
I read, well,
this was one of his things that was referenced. It was in,
I just haven't read it yet. Usually that's what I do.
it's been a little while.
Then I read it. Yeah. I get a
And I
news-
read it.
I get a news weekly too.
Well, yeah.
No, the doctor.
We'll go ahead and start the regular meeting. And we'll start with our silent roll call. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Ramsau, would you give us our vision statement?
To be a premier school district known for excellence in education, innovative instruction, outstanding programs, and dedication to students.
Thank you. Mr. Lear, our empty chair philosophy.
Yeah, if you look at the end down there, we have our empty chair philosophy. We have a lot of students filling our chairs tonight, but later on, I have a feeling they should be at home in bed. So, but as this meeting goes on, as we make decisions, let's keep in mind all of our students this evening.
Now, there are no changes to the published agenda, so I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Is that Scott?
Yep.
Motion by
Ben.
Ben, second by Scott. All in favor? 7-0. All right, moving on to communications. I wanted to say congratulations to Wheatland and to once again make your face turn red when we all look at you. Mrs. McLaren. I think it's fabulous. They are the recipient of the National Elementary and Secondary Education Act Distinguished School Award for, it's 2 in a year from each state, and it's one of 18, did you say?
Since 1996, there's only been number 19 since 1996 in the state of Kansas to receive that award. So
as we work
Big
towards
deal.
that. Before I ask my other members here, I also had the opportunity to go in and talk to some fourth graders a couple weeks ago at the intermediate school, and they were very nice kids, very well-mannered, asked a lot of pertinent questions. Didn't make fun of the old lady talking in front of them, so I just wanted to tell you that that was a very positive experience. I hope that they felt the same way. Okay, does anybody else have any questions, any comments?
I have two.
Go for it.
So we have a district calendar meeting tomorrow night, or tomorrow afternoon, so I'll be attending that with Mr. Lear. And then I did get a chance to go to the KASB conference over the weekend, again with Mr. Lear. And you guys might laugh, but it was very interesting, and I learned a lot. We had dinner, and the keynote speaker was an orphan, and he was very inspirational. And he talked about he wrote a book, and it's about the lighthouse effect, and he talked about how teachers and administrators can be lighthouses for children. Very good presentation. Then I went to a breakout session about bond campaigns, and then I also went to one where we had 2 freshman legislators in Topeka. One was Republican, one was Democrat, and they talked about the process and what they were dealing with up in Topeka. So it was a very good meeting. Happy I got to go.
So you'll go next year.
Oh, sure.
Anybody else? All right. We will then move on to board committee reports. Anybody got, other than what Spike already gave us on the calendar committee? They are excited tonight. We will move on to then my favorite part, Hornet highlights. And we'll start with BCIS.
All right, good evening, Mr. Lear, members of the board, staff, students, parents, and community members. I'm Mrs. Frederick. I'm the principal at the intermediate school, and we are here tonight to present on our new STEM class. First, I wanted to say thank you to the board. This was actually a new position that you all approved last year for this year. And I just wanted to do a reminder, anytime we're approving a new position, we're not just getting a new staff member or a new person, we're also getting a new program. And our O in SOAR is for opportunities, and this is what the new STEM program in that new position has allowed us to do for all of our scholars. Talk about a lighthouse. I've got one in the room, Miss Wolf. She is fantastic. She has done an amazing job of implementing that balance of hands-on learning and project-based learning and getting students engaged with the program. But she also is implementing theory and different types of concepts and learning about science, technology, engineering, and math. I will say we need to add an R to STEM because as an amazing reading teacher, she is also incorporating reading strategies. Students are reading, practicing their comprehension, their reading fluency, and also doing vocabulary as well as an added bonus. So I will turn it over to Ms. Wolf and our amazing scholars, and I just wanted to say thank you to the parents for taking the time out of your night to let your scholars shine.
Great, she kind of said everything that was on my note cards. I could talk forever on STEM. Being brand new to a position in a program, it was really intimidating and scary to come up with, how am I involving the kids? How am I making them learn? How am I bringing learning to life? So every day in STEM, we say that there is a problem, but we are all problem solvers, and how can we solve it? So we all came up with our own ways to show the board our problem was, how do we do STEM? So my way was a video, so we will start with that, and then each of the kids have a little statement that they wanted to share. You should have got my video.
Hello, Tucker Duke, and I'm here to talk about STEM. STEM is fun because it's like, she doesn't just, like normal teachers, she doesn't just talk and makes us sit down and just talk. She lets us do activities and like, she lets us use, we use the engineering design process. And also STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. And then the engineering design process is ask, imagine, plan, create, test, improve, and reflect. That is the engineering design process. And one of my favorite parts was when we got to use like electric scissors and a bunch of those fun stuff. We got to just build, like we did a poster and we got to build what our poster was about. And yeah, that's all. Okay, thanks for having me.
Hi, my name is Kinsley Fowler. I am in 4th grade. I'm here tonight to talk about Miss Wolf's STEM class. First, Miss Wolf is an amazing teacher. She brings learning to life. In her class, we don't just sit there and listen to her talk. We get to do hands-on activities that make learning fun. One of the things I love most about her STEM class is how she encourages us to think outside of the box. I feel lucky to be a part of her STEM class every day. I look forward to coming to school and being a part of the hands-on learning that we do in the classroom.
Hi, my name is Abby Brown. I'm in 4th grade. One thing I love about STEM is that you get to work together and build. You get to learn and explore. I learned about tornadoes, floods, hurricanes, and so much more. They also have lots of destruction, to destroying homes to making whole other towns. STEM is my favorite special. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Hi, my name is Cale Phipps, and I'm a 4th grader at VCAS. What have I learned with STEM this year? We've been learning about the engineer design process and experiments. What was my favorite experiment and what did I learn? My favorite experiment was floods and hurricanes. I learned that floods have more water than hurricanes. The hurricanes and floods experiment, this is what we needed and how we did it. The supplies we used were 1 piece of paper, 3 feet of masking tape, 20 popsicle sticks, 1 container of Play-Doh, and a tin pan. Steps my group used were first build the stilts by taping 5 popsicle sticks, and we repeated that 3 more times. Next we cut and taped the house, then we put Play-Doh to support the stilts. Then we cut floor holes in the floor of the house so we could put the stilts on. So then we rolled a dice and we got a 1, so we got a hurricane, so we got a little bit of water and some wind. Our house made it. What I like about STEM class, I have fun doing experiments and being creative.
I'm Everett Wright, and I've learned a lot in STEM. We finished up our natural disasters program. We're working on our stop motion. I'm working on a volcano.
Hi, my name is Wyatt Gilmer. I am in 5th grade in Mr. Martin's class. And what we are doing in STEM is Shark Tank. We are making a commercial on Canva. And the way this helps us is it sets us up if we decide to run a business. We're also making a design of it on Tinkercad. My design is the MaidBot. It is supposed to help clean around the room. Have a good day.
Hello, my name is Lila Lechner. I'm in 5th grade, Miss Scholl's homeroom. My favorite thing in STEM is when we did our prototype. I did the toothbrush. It was fun because I got to learn from the inventor that made the toothbrush, and that is why I like STEM.
Hi, I'm Samantha. I'm a 5th grade student here to talk to you about STEM. In STEM, we are learning about inventions and innovations. We are learning to program and make inventions and how to advertise them. In STEM, we do exciting projects and have a lot of fun doing them. We use programs like Tinkercad, which helps us design our inventions and lets us see what our inventions would look like. We also use Canva, which helps us use advertising for our inventions and lets us see how advertising would look like in the real world. When we create our inventions and innovations, we use 6 steps. Ask, imagine, plan, create, test, and improve. When we use these steps, it helps us notice the flaws in our invention. These steps also help our brains get to thinking if our invention or innovation would be able to work in the world or if it is working the way we want them to. STEM is a great way to learn about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics all in one class. We learn so much and we have fun ways to learn these different things during STEM. I think STEM is great, and Mrs. Wolf is a great STEM teacher. Thank you for your time. We now have some one-pagers and prototypes to show you.
Because he's an awesome kid. What is this? Awesome. Cool. So have you used that toothbrush yet? Pretty awesome. It looks pretty good. Looks bigger than my one I use, but it's good.
Very nice.
Hey, you guys did a great job. Thanks. Pass it on down.
So for that project, they had to identify an item that either made a difference to society or helped them. So my example was a can opener, so I didn't have to use a knife, and so they all got to take something that they thought was nice.
And we've got several people coming this week who have signed up to be sharks for Shark Tank. Raise your hand if you're going to be a shark this week. I know we got several sharks that have signed up. So not only is it STEM, but they are presenting their pitches to the sharks, and that incorporates just speaking and listening and those reading and comprehension and ELA skills as well. So thank you so much to everyone that signed up to be sharks. Thank you, students. You did amazing, and we are so proud of all the work that you are doing in STEM. Great job.
Great job, guys. All right, thank you, guys. That was awesome. We also have Horner highlights with the VCHS Women's Choir. So we're going to move on out and let them move on in.
That's fidgety. I know, he's got issues. Oh, where he gets it from. Fix it out? Sweet.
Never One Thing is about the personal revolution of accepting and caring for all parts of ourselves. It was inspired by Walt Whitman's verse, "I am large, I contain multitudes." It came to me as a desperate plea and cry to be free from societal confines, and also free from the pain of our internal critic. To be strong, to be powerful, to be angry, to be a fighter. These are not things women are often encouraged to identify with, says Midwest songwriter and composer May Erlewine.
Never One Thing is an anthem for anyone who has ever felt parts of themselves disowned or ostracized. Through connecting with the text, the singer, conductor, and audience are invited to begin the process of reclaiming and healing those parts of themselves that are, at the same time, both vulnerable and powerful. This arrangement is an opportunity for treble choirs to perform empowering music that speaks to the inherent worth of each singer's individual experience.
I'm the underbelly, I am the core, never one thing, no, not am the self, I am the sting. Never know, never know, never one thing. I'm the underbelly, I am the claw. Never one thing, no, not one thing at all. I'm a street fighter, I'm a prayer for peace. I'm a holy roller, I'm a honeybee. Dee, 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 dee. I'm a mother, I'm a Nile, I'm a wing, I'm a wild, I'm the witch, I'm the sea, I'm the light, never one thing. I'm the underbelly, I am the claw, never one thing, no, not one thing at all. I'm a street fighter, I'm a prayer for peace, I'm a holy roller, I'm a honeybee. I am the lion, I am the swan, I am the bull, I am the fawn. I am a woman, I am the ring, I am my own, never one thing. I'm the underbelly, I am the claw, never one thing, no, not one thing at all. I'm a street fighter, I'm a prayer for peace, I'm a holy roller, I'm a honeybee. I'm the underbelly, I am the claw, never one thing, no, not one thing at all. I'm a street fighter, I'm a prayer for peace, I'm a holy roller, I'm a honeybee.
Before they all leave, please tell them thank you. That was fantastic.
Awesome.
Maybe just start over maybe with that.
Yeah. Claire's gotten a lot better recently.
There is nothing better than a bunch of empowered women. Yeah. All right. And did we have any public comments?
No.
All right. Then we will move on to the consent agenda. Again, we can take these things one at a time if we choose to do so, or we can do them all together.
Madam President, I move we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Who was the second? Mike. Motion by Spike, second by Mike. All in favor? 7-0. All right. Mr. Lear, legislative update.
So what we're going to do, we've got Senator Carolyn McGinn going to join us via Google Meet. So, what it looked like earlier. One else is here. We're all here, but not here. So. Well,
You want to go on and then come back?
yeah, that'd probably be the best.
Leave it up,
to do.
connect it.
Oh, she
Just-
sent a message too, the one with the Pulse on the Nation. Says it won't let her join.
Won't let her join.
That's what it says. I'm just waiting to be let in. Now it says I can't join. You really need to get a hobby.
Josh is on the other end of this, so he can.
is a good school. Yeah, they did a really good job.
Way to convince her to come to our meeting.
Well, you want to move on, just come back to this?
Come back to this.
Does that work?
when we figure out what's
And
going
when
on.
she comes in, we can just have her pop in if that works.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So we'll leave it up and when she.
Yeah,
pops
we'll just
in,
leave it up,
do
and then if she pops in, then we'll just, if that works for everyone.
So we'll move forward to the enrollment update.
Yeah, we'll just go to the enrollment update if that works, so. Well, after the countdown September 20th, one of the things that was talked about was coming back every couple months, just to update the board where we are as far as enrollment. We know that just because our enrollment's a certain number on September 20th, historically, in the past and this year included, enrollment's going to continue to grow throughout the school year. So you kind of see a few dates that I have picked in for the rest of this school year. As of today, these are just numbers I updated as of today. You can see in the far left column is what the numbers were 9/20 of 22. So the count date for this year, 9/20 of 23, is right next to it. And then 11/13/23, you can see it there. If you look at Abilene, they're at the exact number they were on count day of 22. They were down to 250 on 9/20 of 23, but they're back up to 261, which is where they were. West is up 3 students since count day. Wheatland's up 1. Intermediate school is up 5 students. Middle school has stayed the same since count day. High school is down a little, but that could be credits too, in terms of we have had some students leave. And then the Learning Center is up 9. So you can see the total number there at the bottom compared to count day 9/22 it was 3204. We're at 3203 right now. So we're 1 student less. I know, especially after the holiday break, Thanksgiving and Christmas, we typically have quite a few students that move in after that break. So what I'll do is just continue to update you on these numbers. So come back to the board again in January, update the numbers, do it again in March, and then probably in May as well as we move forward with enrollment. What questions over these do you have?
Do we know what the enrollment was last year on 11/13?
I don't have those numbers. No, I don't. I'll make sure to have those at the next meeting. I'll make sure I have that date as well. Yeah, I anticipate it was probably higher than what it was.
I know there's a kind of a natural trend.
Yeah, it usually goes up. So my guess is it would have been more, but I can't tell you exactly. But I'll get those numbers for sure. Any other questions? You don't want to see that? All right. Well, moving on now, as part of our special board meeting that we had in August, one of the things we wanted to continue with that meeting is to have a different building come throughout this school year and give a report as to where they are in terms of the needs assessment and how they're progressing. So tonight, Mrs. Frederick gets to be the inaugural report, the first one. She was so excited when I told her. She asked how many people had done this, and I said, you. So Mrs. Frederick, the principal at the intermediate school, will talk about what's going on at DCIS.
Thank you, Mr. Lear. Good evening. Hello again. Like Mr. Lear said, I'm Lauren Frederick, principal at the intermediate school, and I am here to give an update not only on our FastBridge data, but also our action plans and the steps that our staff has been taking to meet our building-wide goals. So just a reminder of our building-wide goals. At the intermediate school, we want all students to be on grade level, or if they're not on grade level, making a year's worth of growth in a year's time. So the first thing we do is kind of get a baseline where all of our students are at. So each student takes the fall FastBridge. It's an academic screener for both reading and math, and it kind of gives us a gauge of where all students are performing academically in both of the content areas. So this is our fall FastBridge data just for VCIS. As you can see in 4th grade math, approximately 74% of students are on grade level. 4th grade reading, approximately 64%. Fifth grade math, 70% of students on grade level, and fifth grade reading, 64% of students on grade level. So from this data, what we do is we sort students in what's called MTSS groups. It's a multi-tiered system of supports, and ideally we want approximately 80% of our students to be in tier 1, 15% of our students to be in tier 2, and 3 to 5% of our students to be in tier 3. As you can see in math, in both fourth and fifth grades, we're pretty close to an MTSS model, with our high-risk categories being at 8 and 7%. And I will say the percent of students on grade level this year, I went back and looked at where we were at in the fall of last year, and we are up in 3 out of the 4 grade levels and 3 out of the 4 content areas. So that's a good, we're starting ahead than where we were last year, so that's a great thing. So from this, the students in the high-risk category will be in what's called a tier 3 group. They will be receiving explicit instruction on their individualized level, and they will receive 30 minutes of reading instruction and 30 minutes of math instruction per day. The students in the some risk category, they might be in a tier 2 group, which will be a little bit lower level, but we're teaching those skills and building upon those skills to help push them into the next category. The goal is for them to be on grade level. So the low risk and college pathway, they might be in a tier 1 group, or they may be in an enrichment group, which means we are providing enriched instruction above grade level to try and continue to push them forward. So that way they're continuing to make growth even higher than grade level. So in the MTSS groups, our teachers are also progress monitoring along the way. The fast bridge is fall, winter, and spring. But we also do what's called progress monitoring, which means we're giving students weekly mini assessments to see how they're progressing based on the instruction in their groups. So they receive instruction Monday through Thursday, 4 days a week, and then on Friday is when they do their mini assessments. So what you're seeing here, you're seeing about a month's worth of data for one student. The dots are the different assessment points. And what we want to see is we want that student's trend line to go up. We also want that student's trend line to be above the dotted line, which is their goal line. So as you can see, this student is not only trending up at a rapid speed, but they're also above their goal. So this might be a student that maybe needs to bump up to a higher level group or bump up progress monitoring at a higher grade level. That was math. I want to show you just an example of a reading progress monitoring. As you can see, the student's trend line is going up, which is fantastic. They're going up at just a little bit slower speed, and they are so close to meeting the goal line. So the idea, or the goal is for this student's trend line to eventually intersect with their goal line, which means they're making adequate progress. If they're not making progress, we may problem solve. Maybe they need to bump down to a lower level group, or maybe we need to switch up the intervention to where they are making progress. I'm really proud to show you this. Our reading interventionists and all of our tier 3 teachers do a fantastic job at tracking data based on the individual skill that students are at. So what you're seeing, this is a spreadsheet, and each row is a different student. And this is a reading interventionist spreadsheet, and she is tracking each student based on the skills that they have mastered from the Quick Phonics Screener. As you can see, we've already progressed somewhat throughout the year, and you're starting to see more greens, which means they're mastering some of those lower level skills. Once a student masters a skill, the teacher just moves right on to the next skill, and we keep going until they continue to master those lower level reading foundational skills. Then what we do as a professional learning community, every 6 weeks, all of the teachers get together and we review the progress monitoring for every single student that is receiving progress monitoring. We analyze, is the intervention being successful? Is it somewhat successful? Or is the intervention not being successful? If it is successful, maybe they bump up into a higher group, but if it's not successful, we as a team problem solve maybe why that student isn't making adequate gains. Maybe they need to bump to a different lower level group, or maybe just the specific group dynamics needs to change and they need to switch to a new group. But what I love about our 6-week data talks is we talk about each student and their each individual needs because every student needs something a little bit different. So that is what we do for our fast bridge cycle, and then every 6 weeks the cycle starts over again. So right now we're in our second 6-week cycle that will take us to the end of the semester, and then in January our groups will change again. On top of our fast bridge, we also take what's called the CAP interim assessments, and this is kind of like a practice state assessment. This data is so crucial because it gives teachers the information that they need for each grade level standard. So as you can see here, this is a class, this is one class, and 100% of the students in this specific class had mastered the second standard on that list. That lets the teacher know their class has got it, they can move on to start teaching another standard. Or let's say their class was below 80%, that might let the teacher know that they need to spiral back to that standard or provide some reteaching for the whole class. Or another thing they could do, they could pull a small group of students and work individually for students who may need to continue to work on that standard. So our CAP interim assessments are also available fall, winter, and spring. But this gives our teachers great data, and it kind of gives a prediction of how their class is going to perform when we get to the state assessments in the spring. Another assessment tool that we use, not only are we screening for academics, but we're screening for social and behavioral skills as well. So we give the SEL web screening assessment. This screens for social skills. Our 3 overarching concepts are understanding others, social problem solving, and self-control. And as you can see here from this assessment, 89% of 4th grade students have mastered all of these social skills. That is amazing. That lets us know that our students have the social and behavioral skills that they need to be successful, not only in school, but in the future as well. This also gives us some information on skills that maybe we need to be explicitly teaching throughout the year. For example, our 4th grade students were a little bit below in understanding others. So our counselors may do a specific lesson for 4th grade on how to understand others or take perspective of another person's opinion. And then our teachers can also provide targeted homeroom activities to target those specific skills as well. So our mental health team is looking more building wide on what skills and what supports can we put into place for students, but our teachers are also looking at their individual classes and their individual students, and we're all providing interventions not just for academics, but for behaviors and socials as well. So that's kind of the process that we go through to ensure all students are successful and all students are performing either at grade level or making adequate growth throughout the year. And I just have to brag on my staff. They work so hard. They love all students, and they spend so much of their time analyzing the data, tracking the data, ensuring students have what they need at school, not only to be successful academically, but to ensure that they're loved, cared for, and that we're wrapping around students for those social and behavioral skills as well. So thank you so much.
Any questions for Mrs. Frederick?
Awesome. Yeah, great job.
That was a great job.
Yeah. Way to be the first.
Yeah, set that standard high, will you?
Hey, and now it's over, so thank you.
confined to policy issues rather than management. All management activities delegated to the superintendent. Board members understand legal responsibilities as trustees of the school district and act accordingly. Full board participates in the annual evaluation of the superintendent. Board activities focus on the mission statement of the school district. Board members arrive on time. Board meetings start and end on time. Board members are satisfied with the overall operation of the board. Those were 100% yes. And then these three were the ones that had less of 50% responses that were yes. There were actually no responses that were no. They were either yes or some. So there were no responses on the whole survey. So these are 50% that were over, 50% some. So new board members receive an orientation in board service. Board members budget for board education, attend state and national opportunities when possible, and board members represent the whole district, not just special interest groups. That's something we could look at in the future, potentially having training, doing some different things over those aspects. What questions over the self-evaluation do you have?
Questions? Moving on.
All right, moving on. I have been texting Senator McGinn, so I'm not sure what's going on. So if anything, we might just put it off and maybe we'll do it at the next board meeting. So, well, moving on is the bond feedback and next steps. So one of the things we talked about a couple months ago, obviously, with where do we go from here? What are the next steps in terms of where we go? We have capacity issues, and how do we move on? Where do we move on from here? And so one of the things, if you remember, it's been a couple months ago, we talked about giving a survey. So just to remember, one of our strategic planning goals in SOAR is the R, the resources goal, that the district will utilize and create optimal learning environments and prepare for future changes in enrollment. So this is right along with our strategic plan, staying along with that SOAR. So what we talked about was we were able to give a survey, and the survey was given to, we had 937 people take the survey. If you figure we had, 4,300 people voted in the election, so about 22% took the survey. It's one of those things that was sent out via email to all patrons or all students, families. It was on social media multiple times. It was on our website. I sent it to the Valley Center Ministerial Alliance to send it out to their congregations if possible. Not sure if it went out or not. And there were other options. We could have done some phone surveys and things like that. Probably would have cost $15,000 to $20,000 to do that, and that could still be an option if that's the direction the board wants to head. So we basically had a few different questions on it. You can see, did they vote? They vote in favor. Why did it fail? A few other questions for some more specifics, but those were the main questions. And so the big question I asked right at the beginning that was, did they vote in the bond election? And of the 937 people, about 62% voted. Some of the people that didn't vote said they're not a registered voter in USD 262. They live out of district. But as you went through the comments, it wasn't an uncommon thing to see people say they couldn't find their ID. They threw their ballot in the trash. They didn't know there was an election. They forgot about it. So it wasn't an uncommon thing to see that. Out of that, 38% of people that said no. So quite a few people didn't vote for a number of reasons in the election. And what I kind of try, I wanted to see in talking, getting feedback from different people, what were the rank orders why people didn't vote for the bond, just to gather information. What were the things that really people didn't agree with as far as the election? And so what this did, the question had them go in and rank in the order that they felt the strongest in the reasoning why they didn't vote for the bond. So you can see that the number one reason, if you see how this bar graph is set up, the tax increase, that bar is the longest at the top. That means that was the number one reason that people ranked that they didn't vote for the bond, was the tax increase. You look at the second one, the current economy inflation, that's the second bar. You'll notice it's the longest of the second bars in the survey. So that was the number 2, the current economy inflation, which goes along with the tax increase. The third reason was the length of the bond. So 25 years, 20 years, much like a mortgage, how long the bond payments are. That was the third reason why. And then the pre-K edition, that facility, that was the fourth reason. You can kind of see how the bars, see the length there. You can see other people had it ranked different spots, but that was the overwhelming response for the fourth. And then early childhood facility was the 5th ranked one. And then the special education facilities. We talked about the supplemental program center. That was the 6th ranked reason that people did not vote for the bond issue. So that was the people that voted no. I also asked the question, for the people that voted yes, why do you think the bond didn't pass? And if you look at the responses, they almost match up with the people that voted no. So obviously people talk. There's plenty of posts on social media to let you know why people voted one way or the other, or just talking around town. So even the people that voted that were in favor of the bond, from their perspective, the number 1 reason was the tax increase. Current economy was number 2, and it just mirrors the people that voted no. So, and then there was an opportunity on there for comments. And so I just went through, there were a lot of comments. I went through, kind of took some comments out. What were some common themes from people that were commenting? Also a number of different, with the revenue neutral rate that comes out. That's an estimate, right? An estimate of what your tax bill might be. Those going out right before the election, that timing probably didn't help things. The economy, much like the survey results. Also a few things, comments on transparency, just being open and honest as to what we're doing and the direction we're heading. And then fiscal responsibility. I think that right there, a lot of this, I view it as it's education. It's educating our patrons as to what's going on and what we're doing, and being very open with them as to what we're doing, which is what we're doing here tonight. Making sure that people they can see it. It's recorded now. They can go back and watch it. With that fiscal responsibility piece, I think part of that is an education piece. People understanding school finance it's not like balancing your checkbook. It's a lot different than that. And I think helping people understand that would be a good piece moving forward as well. And really, that was the survey. And from here, really, it's determining what are our next steps. What are the board's next steps? Is this something we pursue again here in the next year? Is it something we put off for a period of time? We know capacity issues exist in multiple buildings, and what do we do from here on out? So really, just an opportunity for you to discuss where do we go from here? And what questions you have for me.
I have a question about the first question, did you vote in the U.S. bond, in the 262 bond election? And according to the responses, almost 60% said that, yes, we voted in it. But maybe I'm remembering unclearly, but I thought the report that came out immediately after that election, it was only about 37%.
38%. Those would have been just the people that took the survey. So this wasn't sent to all registered voters. This was only those people that chose to take the survey.
But I mean, the report was only 38% actually voted, but according to this, people that are responding, 60% of them said they voted.
60% of the people that responded to the survey.
Glad they
not
responded.
the
Got it.
election.
Thank you.
Yeah. What other questions?
I think reading through a lot of them, it was eye-opening. I think the rushed comments were correct, because there's a lot of confusion out there, and from not having their ID to do a mail-in ballot to not understanding why we have 4 line items on their tax bill, and that we have 4 bonds out there, or, something along those lines. So I think if we do decide to move forward, we've got to know what our messaging is and get some clarity out there to the people that don't understand. And that, it's probably a fault on our side for being too close to the action and not seeing the forest for the trees for what message we need to get out there to the people if we decide to move forward again.
Yeah, I agree that we tried to do too much in too short a period of time. I mean, we had a lot of changes there all at one time, and then over the summer, we rushed it. So, given the fact that the number one reason that the vote was no was the tax increase, I guess my question is, can you put something together that shows us that we can achieve what we need to achieve without a mill levy increase? And in addition to that, address these major concerns that did come up. The length of the bond one, I'm not really sure.
I don't think
Our other bonds,
you're not going to solve the mill levy issue by shortening the bond and increasing those
Well,
year payments. I mean,
my question was,
dichotomy.
our other bonds are 20 years, is that what you said?
Well, some of, we're getting ready, it depends on the
Some of
bond.
them are maturing,
Some of them,
but-
yeah, right.
So the objection to the length of the bond would be the additional 5 years, not, which like I've told you before, I wasn't aware that there was a 25-year option. I thought it was 20 or 30.
You can do both.
So
25, 20.
that definitely is something that I didn't feel like we got talked to about. I mean, I'm here and I don't remember us discussing the length of the bond. But if we give you direction to go out and put something together and to show us that can we address these concerns and still achieve what we need to achieve as far as addressing growth and our facilities issues. And you come back to us with something and show us whether or not we can get to that point before we even go forward and say that we're going to pursue something. Can we get something that says this is what we could do?
Yeah, I mean, I have to take some things off.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be a part of it.
I think we got to pare it down to get rid of the nice to haves and get it down to addressing the space issues and getting it to a more palatable dollar amount. I think is kind of the first step. And I think if we do continue with an elementary school, you know, I don't know how much we can propose some sites with that, but I know that was another big part of the feedback was nobody had any idea where we were going to place it. And then, you know, at that point, do we look at a transportation study, you know, deciding what, does it make sense to put it in Park City? Does it make sense for it to be in Valley Center? How's that going to impact transportation depending upon where that elementary school is going to
The
go?
transportation study was done prior to the bond, this past bond. Because we, at that time, we knew we would be transporting more from Park City, more from Valley to Park City than we would if we flipped it around and we were bringing kids from Park City to us. There's still, the majority of busing would still be coming from Valley.
I have to look and see. I haven't seen that.
We definitely need to update those numbers and make sure that we understand. And I've said before, we know that there's potential areas, but we kind of need to nail down what we think is our best choice. And then we can work towards making that happen as opposed to, well, we might put it in these 3 places and then we'll work it out when we get the bond passed, which I think that's one of the main things.
I don't think that some of the talk of the restructuring of grade levels was very
Yeah.
brought out. The fact that the most crowded school is the is the middle school. And in order to alleviate that, the talk was bumping the 6th grade back down to intermediate, so it's 5, 6, and 4th grade back down to elementary, which gives them another year of continuity. But you cannot do that with 3 elementary schools. It's not to make more, it was not, the idea of the elementary was not to be, oh, we'll make more room for the K through 3. The idea was, we're going to put 4th graders back down there, we're going to have more space. And you can't alleviate the most crowded school without doing that.
Right, yeah, and it was time. I mean, really, a lot of the message was try to get that message out there, but timing-wise, yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough to get that
Too short a
out there.
period of time to try to communicate that. We know that there's issues with pre-K and early childhood. So I guess my position is we use these as the guiding factors when we go out and see what we can achieve without a mill levy increase, if it's achievable at all. I know that we've talked about, do we need 20 classrooms at the high school? I don't want to get to the point where we're paring down to what we think we're just going to need, because we're going to turn around and have to ask again. So we need to have enough foresight to say, we need this much in 5 years, but we anticipate that we're going to need this much. And so we're still addressing that, because whether that's reconfiguring where they put it and it drops the number of classrooms or whatever it is. But if you put something together that comes back and shows us these are the things that we can achieve, and drop out what we can or what we should, however you choose to look at that, and then make a decision in December whether or not we want to kick the process off again and try for a spring ballot, or if we want to hold on for a while.
Yeah, I can definitely look at it. I think part of it, there were things in there there were some offices and things like that, and that doesn't, when you talk about capacity and the need for space, that doesn't necessarily help with that. And so ensuring that it's addressing the needs that we've talked about, I think would be a good thing. And I think, yeah, I can see what we can do. Absolutely.
One of the things I want to look at, and my colleagues have mentioned most of this stuff, but, if we address some of these concerns that people had, and if we eliminate the excuses, and we show transparency, we show exactly what we're going to do.
Not excuses.
Here's exactly what we're going to do. We're up front. It's not rushed. It's not confusing. Get the information out. I think we can find, something that most people like, and we get something passed.
I mean, primary reason they didn't vote for was tax increase. If we can come back with no tax increase, we should eliminate a multitude of no votes, yes?
Maybe.
Here I go.
I mean, that was the number one reason why, but people changed their mind.
At least
So-
201 of them, right?
Yeah. And I think a number of those things that are on that list, if you think about paring it down, if we know the pre-K and the early childhood facility was something people weren't in favor of, then those things could be something that we could potentially cut. That could come off. And then some of the other things that were on there as well, those could be cut as well. I've had conversations with administration. Is that something that's needed? Is that a need or a want? I think there's a difference in the two. And so if it's a want versus a need, it's nice to have, but we don't need it. I think those types of things. And so I think I can come back in December with something different that maybe accomplishes the majority of those things.
I heard a lot of negative comments about the mail-in ballots too. I don't know if it'd probably be wiser to do an in-person elections next time.
Yeah, let's not do that again.
Yeah, I think an in-person election would be the best method to do it if we're going to pursue this. I think the mail-in, it was confusing. I think people just didn't know necessarily. So it's not a common way it's not how we vote typically. Some people do, but most of the time you go to the polls. I think in person, no matter what we do in the future, if we pursue it, that would be the best option.
Anybody else?
So is that just a report then?
That's a report, right? Yes.
Yep.
business, our out-of-district enrollment policy, second read. Mr.
So we
Lear.
had the first read last meeting, right? We had our hearing tonight. So we didn't have anybody speak to that, which we could have. If you noticed during the hearing, I actually had our senator and representatives' names on there with their email addresses. So if people do have concerns about this policy, that's really the best people to contact, because
They're the ones that created it.
we don't really have a choice. This is something that we have to do. So there were a couple of changes on this second read compared to what we had last month. I know one of the questions that was brought up was looking at our limited out-of-district policy. And is there a way that we could work that into this policy? So this has gone, Calvin's gone over this. I've worked with him, talked to him multiple times on this. So when it comes to the limited out-of-district, this policy being a brand-new policy, the best course of action for the first year having this, because there's probably going to be, well, hopefully, some changes with this policy here the next legislative session. No guarantees, but there could be some changes. So trying to keep this very similar to what other districts are doing is probably going to be the best course of action. So there were a couple of changes, though, that he put in there that could give you, that you still have local control, which is part of that limited out-of-district enrollment policy. You had that ability as a board. We had that ability as a district. So one of the changes there, regardless of capacity determinations that first highlight, the following categories of students shall be allowed to enroll as if resident students. So no matter what capacity is on that part, regardless of that, these students would be able to enroll. The difference being that statement wasn't in there before. It fell under that first subject to having capacity up above. That part that's up there talks about any sibling. So what that would allow is just because someone is a sibling doesn't necessarily mean we have to let them in. Our goal is going to be to do that. If a student gets in via the lottery and they have a sibling, our intent will be to let in that sibling, obviously. But if capacity is an issue in that grade level or that building, we don't have to let them in. So what that does is that allows us some wiggle room with that. So that was the change. And then as far as the limit out of district enrollment as well, Calvin added in the statement, subject to meeting the enrollment priority requirements set forth in this policy, the board may, in its discretion, accept and enroll other non-resident students. So instead of spelling it out, if you're a property owner, things of that nature that are part of our limited out of district enrollment, the board could still have the flexibility to do some of those things with those statements that are in here. So it changes it a little. We're going to follow the policy the way it's written. It's pretty much the same policy that other districts are using with a couple different changes that make it unique to our district, given the fact that we have been a limited out of district enrollment district. I mean, not everyone can come to school here. So we'll still have to follow the capacity recommendations, do the lottery, all of those things, but this allows a little bit of flexibility. So, and that was really the only changes from last month. So,
The question, so being that July 15th or before is when the lottery must happen on that date or before.
Right.
Approximately for the non-residents, approximately how many in years past residents do we have enroll after July 15th?
Yeah, it's about 600, about 590, 600. It's going to fluctuate from year to year. That's students. Now we could look at families. I didn't look at families, but about 590 students is what it was this last year. Numbers are going to fluctuate from year to year, but that's about how many students. And that's the day, July 15th, right, is our cutoff. In terms of we have to notify those out-of-district families whether or not they're coming into the district, not knowing those families, will be returning if they haven't enrolled.
So that 590 is of our existing students that have not re-enrolled?
Yep.
Do they understand they don't have to pay until the fall? Then what?
Yeah.
I don't understand. It's all online.
I mean, under these conditions,
They better get enrolled.
So you're either going to have to, I don't know, you're not going to be allowed to hold 600 positions, so it's going to be, needed to be pushed, that enrollment's going to have to be earlier for district folks, period.
Why can't we, as part of our numbers, hold 600 seats in, because this is our anticipated number? I mean, that's.
We can do that, can't we?
That's planning.
We would.
That's
That's
good
what we-
planning, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what we do. We plan on those families, if them coming back. Some families we don't know. But we always anticipate, unless we hear something from the family, that the majority of our families would be returning, and we would gain families. So, but the enrollment piece, yeah, we don't know.
Yeah, because our
It's not a
enrollment
for sure
is not
thing.
so long.
Usually we find out the first week
Right.
of school when kids don't show up. But we still have families that haven't enrolled.
Well, even our open enrollment in August is going to be, when people are coming to enroll their kids at different buildings, is going to be way past the deadline. It's what.
Oh, yeah.
I do have
Definitely.
a question, well, two. One, there was clarification on transportation and what our responsibilities were to provide or not provide for these
Right.
non-resident students.
Yep.
My second is a concern with the statement that we are going to try, if a student is pulled in the lottery, to let siblings come in as well. It kind of defeats the purpose of a lottery if we're just going to pull one kid's name and let 5 kids in, which means the 5 kids that come after them that would have gotten those spots. Just saying, we're going to have angry people if we
Depends upon grade level.
are not
too, right?
clarifying that that's a possibility.
It would depend on grade level and building, because some buildings are going to be more full right off the bat than others, depending on where we establish our capacity levels.
But assuming that you have, let's say you have a 2 spots open at the intermediate school, and we take one of those because the first kid that went to a different school has a sibling that would go to intermediate. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm. Yeah.
I just think that
Oh, yeah.
we need to fine tune that so we're not creating problems for ourselves right off the bat.
Because that might be the assumption of the family is my middle schooler is going to get in, so my
Right.
2 elementary kids will as well.
So-
And that's not a given.
I mean, I know that that's something that's going to have to be refined as we do it. I don't know that you can write every single possibility down in the
It's not a problem we
policy.
created, so I
I
think
certainly
you
wish
let
Ms.
the-
McGeehan
you let
was
the
on the,
family- Yeah, you let the families in. I mean, that makes more sense, and, you know,
Carolyn was
it
here.
stinks
For the
kids-
mo-
It stinks for the 2 kids that don't get in because of that, but, I mean, it's gonna cause, you're gonna cause so many more issues, so splitting up family groups in between districts.
I agree with that, but that's also from someone whose kids are in the district and he won't ever have to sign up.
I hear you.
I guess the question is this an individual lottery or is it a family lottery?
Yeah, it just needs to be qualified so that they know going in what the expectation is.
Yeah, and we can easily put the policy there and make sure that they know that when they are applying to be a part of the district, hey, just because one kid gets in, one of your students get in, doesn't mean that everyone's getting in. I think unfortunately, we're going to have families that are not happy with it.
And if they know that
Either way.
up front, that may decide whether they're going to choose to enter the lottery.
Right.
I would think, if they
Yeah.
know that only 1 of 4 might get
And
chosen.
then we can give them all of the state legislators' email
We can do-
addresses, and they can.
And phone numbers, yes,
Yep.
we can do that.
I was wondering if maybe she'd read what we were going to discuss.
I'm not a fan
She
of the
couldn't
policy,
get into our room.
but I do think what we have here covers the bases as we are out of the gate. I mean, we know we're going to have to make changes as we actually do these things, but as far as Calvin having looked at it, I like the qualification that we still have the authority to enroll a non-resident at the board's discretion. Feeling of power. But I think that this addressed all the questions that we asked in the previous, I think that.
Yeah, the one big thing will be as we establish capacity this next semester, as we look at buildings, and part of that is looking at future growth. There's that, not only are you looking at capacity for a first grade class, but what's it going to look like when that first grader is a 6th grader? And so some of those things we'll have to look at as we establish capacities, because the numbers as they grow, which we anticipate our student population growing, we have to consider those things, because once they're in, they're in. We can't, unless they don't meet the 357 rule that we've put in there, the 3 days of suspension, they're in our district for good once they're in. So we'll just have to be it'll be something we're very aware of as we establish those numbers.
So that's another question. So let's say we get a kid in and we bring in his family, and then that kid
Yeah, he gets
he
kicked
gets
out.
kicked
Do we
out.
kick the
What do
rest
you
of
do with the
family
other
out?
kids?
They stay in the district.
Boy, this was a good idea.
Great idea. Or let's say
Well, that's
some.
per our policy if we make, but if we say only the kid gets in, then only the kid gets kicked out. I mean, the single kid.
Yeah, I mean, we can't kick it full. By the way, your brother screwed up, so bye-bye.
Yeah, we couldn't do that.
No, what I'm saying is, but if our policy was it's an individual lottery and only that person gets in and not the kid, well, then if that one student gets in, then he's the only one that gets kicked out too. But,
That's true.
I mean, there's lots of different
Yeah.
ways to look at it, I
This
guess.
first year is going to be a test case, see how it all falls out. And
We don't need to be in a hurry tonight, right? I mean, I don't
well,
think
on
we
a
could-
second read, we can approve it, can't we?
You can approve it tonight, or we can table it and do it in December.
I'd rather wait.
I mean, we'll have to do it at the December meeting. It'll be.
It has to be done by
It'll
the
have
first
to
of
be
the
done at
year.
that meeting. We've had our hearing, we've met the
when
stipulations,
do
but
we
we can
want to
table it
change
again,
that? Delay
and
the
if there are additional questions, because I can ask some of those questions.
I want to see what other districts are doing.
Well, what if they're all waiting around to see what we do? And then we got a whole bunch of people not making a decision. That's a man thing. I think we should vote on it.
No, I think we should table it.
Sorry.
Are we going to have some visit time with Ms. McGinn next month on what she was supposed to present? Could we ask her some questions directly about this?
Yeah, you'll be able to ask her, and also Representative
Mon,
Mahan, is that how you pronounce his last name? He's coming to our meeting in December as well.
like
So
yawn.
he'll be here also.
There's a reason.
Representative Berquist, I haven't gotten a hold of, so I'm hoping he'll be able to come to the meeting also. But
In Keisha doesn't have a problem, the kid can immediately participate
No,
in
they
the
still have to
sport.
follow Keisha rules.
doesn't follow, they'll still follow, yeah.
Now, if they were to decide after a month, this is not the school for them, and they go back to their other school, or they can participate there?
No, they have to sit out a year.
Okay, thank you.
Do the same thing. But there's a whole, I'll talk about that during the KASB resolutions, Keisha, and some of the issues they're dealing with as far as homeschool right now and some of those things. So,
Huh? Can you yell money? Oh.
I can
Y'all-
bring it,
Do we want to table it, or do we want to vote on it?
Even if we vote on it and it passes or doesn't pass, we can always come back and change it, right?
Well, what she has to say.
Madam President, I would like to move that we table this.
Both suck. Motion by Mike, second by Spike. All in favor? All opposed? Oh, thank you.
I'm there for you, sister.
5-2.
when I come back, I'll make sure there's other policies, I'll make sure.
So do we want clarification on, is that sibling part something that the state is pushing down on it, or is that just
It
from
is.
the recommended?
It's part of the recommended policy from KASB that
But it doesn't force us to do that from a state.
the state doesn't give us any, I mean, their guidance is very limited as to what direction.
Well, even with the transportation issue, there's a lot of difference from what they were originally saying and what news outlets were reporting. There was a completely different, just from our first meeting on this. So,
Are you also clear about how you're going to come up with the capacity numbers?
Districts are doing a lot of different things. They're hiring RSP, who came in 22 and did the population study for the district. Some districts are hiring them to look at capacity growth patterns and things like that.
Because their study was so important to
yeah,
us.
I wouldn't recommend that based upon our past.
So there are, I mean, really, it's going to be looking at, past year's enrollments.
Right.
Looking at potential growth, Because
Reserving
the reality
600
is,
spots for late
where are we going to be in 5 years?
Yeah.
And that's the hard piece, is if we set our capacities higher, then what could happen is, with, the number of houses and plans that are supposed to be built here in the school district, well then, if you let all those kids in, they're in for their kindergartners, they're graduating from Valley Center High School. So,
We'll have to decide on how many students are in each class, right?
yeah,
Class sizes?
it'll be by building in class. Yeah, what number we set.
Because we can stack them in there, but that's not gonna.
I
different-
eagerly
That's for the teachers
anticipate.
or the
But
kids.
different buildings have different capacities.
Right. Size of classrooms, we'll look at all that, how many, but the goal isn't to load up our classes. I mean, and I think our patrons know that. Like, we're not trying to bring in all these students. That won't be what we do. I think we set reasonable numbers, and really part of that will be some of our conversation. Do we want our numbers to be a little bit higher or lower on the end in terms of establishing those capacities? We'll also be transparent and upfront. I mean, I think that's, but what that looks like and how we do that, I'm not sure exactly.
Nobody knows exactly. It's all up in the air, and until they've done it, I'm not sure I believe that the money's going to follow the kid like it's supposed to either, so.
And we'll work with, I know I was on the phone today with Chad Higgins, who is the superintendent of Mays. I talked to him for a while today because he's kind of spearheaded this as far as the out-of-district policy and done a lot of the legwork, frequently asked questions, a lot of the stuff that I'm getting from him. And so I anticipate the same thing when it comes to capacity, a lot of conversations around the state on what this looks like.
I'm sure, and I'm concerned how it's going to affect our hiring practices, because usually we have staff in place by July 1 at least, and now if we get another 600 that we think's coming along with the lottery, now that could affect how many second grade teachers we have, or how many English teachers at the middle school we have, and all of a sudden now we're into a predicament
Has
where we're
Dunkirk
short.
yet?
I feel good. Well, I think that's just it, though, and I think that's where we have to look at it and go, okay, we want to make sure we don't want to have to add 2 second grade teachers. So we're going to ensure that we set our numbers low enough to where we don't have to do that. And I think we haven't been an open district for a reason. And I think we will be able to establish those capacities to the point where we just have to anticipate future growth. If we were a district that wasn't going that direction, it would look different. But we have to do what's best
And I hope
for.
we'll really lean hard on our building principals and staff to make those determinations of the number in each classroom, and because they know exactly what they have in there, and they're the experts.
Yeah, this won't just be me making up numbers. No, this will be a team effort.
Greg in his office.
Most definitely. No, not how it will work. What other questions?
Got plenty.
All right, Mr. Reed, moving on to the girls wrestling assistant coach and bus lot aid additions.
Okay, we got 2 parts of this. I'm going to let Chad and Jeremy, I don't know if you're coming up too, or just let Chad take.
Good evening. I'm here on behalf of the VCHS girls wrestling program. That's Coach Jeremy Leduc in the back row there. He was hired in the spring as our head coach. In the spring, we decided basically to separate the boys and girls wrestling programs to where we have 2 head coaches now. We have a boys head coach, we have the girls head coach. So currently, let me back up. The main reason we're asking for an additional coach, and it's going to be specifically a girls assistant, is the numbers. This is the 5th year for our girls program. In year 1, we had 4 wrestlers, correct? This is year 5, and we have 30. So the growth has been tremendous, and that's a testament to the coaches in our program, what they've been doing. So we're here asking for an assistant coach, because right now Coach Leduc is going to have 30 girls in practice all on his own. Keep in mind that half of those girls have never wrestled before. More than half of those girls have never wrestled before. So the amount of instruction time needed to go into these wrestlers is going to be tremendous. And for him, asking him to do that all on his own is a big task. That's a big task. So we'd like to keep our ratio of wrestlers to coaches somewhere between 12-1 to 15-1. Right now, our boys program has 61 wrestlers and 5 coaches, so that's right at 12-1. I've asked our league schools, some of our league schools, for their numbers. Andover is currently at 14-1. Goddard, who has been dominating the boys side of our league and the state, 5A state lately, they're at 9-1, nine wrestlers to each coach. Andover Central is at 15-1, and Goddard Eisenhower is also at 14-1. So our numbers on the boys side are right where we want to be, somewhere between that 12-1 range, 15-1 range. But our girls right now are 30-1. And we don't think that's fair for the coach. We don't think that's fair for the girls. So we are here asking you tonight to approve that additional assistant coach for our girls wrestling program. What questions do you guys have for me?
You gonna be able to fill it?
We have it filled. We have the person who's already got the information in to the district office. If you guys say yes, we're moving forward. And we have
Not
a
that you
young
thought we'd
lady
say
who
yes
was.
or anything.
We have a young lady who's a VC grad. She was a wrestler in our program. She would be a great addition. Not only for her coaching, but she can help supervise our girls in the locker rooms where Coach LeDuc can't go. So that's another safety issue for our wrestlers there. So she can help supervise all those young ladies. So, any other questions?
We'll guarantee a league championship.
I'll guarantee it.
I'll tell you what.
You okay with that?
The program's growing. Our boys program is slated to have a pretty good year. We hope right now. They're looking pretty good, and our girls are getting there as well.
I move we approve to hire an assistant for the women's wrestling program.
Second. What else you need?
Apparently Spike has some
I
questions.
just want to know if we have the money.
Well, this would be added to our
I'm asking-
supplemental schedule, right? It's already been determined where it would fall and,
It would be paid the same as a boys assistant. Yep.
You good with that?
yeah.
You want to do it again?
No, you already did it.
Motion by Mike, second by Scott, to approve the addition of the girls wrestling coach. All in favor? 7-0.
Thank you all.
Yeah, as a former wrestling coach, you can never have too many coaches in a wrestling room. So, especially when you have a lot of unexperienced kids in there, and say just even with two in there, if this program continues to grow, I would say we're going to need to be adding another one soon, just because it's such an individual sport, and I have have a special place in my heart for wrestling too. So. I definitely think it's definitely a great program, and just testament to the coaches, and then us adding the program, and then also, we'll be probably looking ahead next year of adding the same program at the middle school for our students. So the second one on there for new business, Mark Marshall, our transportation director. We have a student from Next Steps Academy who's been working at the transportation building for a little over a year. Basically been doing interior, exterior vehicle cleaning, basic custodial tasks around there. And so it's just been a really hard worker, and wanted to continue, wanted to support this student with this. And so basically it'd be like just a low level, it'd be 8 to 10 hours a week, part-time position for this. And then this is a request from Mark. You can see that up on the board. So are there any questions on that? Like I said, budget-wise, I've already worked it out with Greg and Susan that this would be a pretty minimal increase, but it'd definitely be just a testament of what that program's doing of the Next Steps Academy.
I think that's great.
Has the could have been working for free?
Well, it's been part of they do part of it as they do some other projects and so forth around, but they've, yes, been doing it.
I'll make a motion to accept the new bus lot aid position.
Second.
Motion by Sean, second by Spike. All in favor? 7-0.
Okay, the next piece, one of the things as part of the 25-year facility plan, one of the things on the budget line item this year was playground projects at West and Abilene. One of the things as I was touring around with, when I first started, was touring around with the principals, was looking at facilities and so forth, and playgrounds was always kind of a hot, I guess, a thing that came up with several of them. So one of the things we're looking at, especially the playground areas, when some areas we have pea gravel, some areas we have mulch, and we're always having to replace, either sand, mulch, whatever it is. So one of the projects we looked at, and I've been working with both principals, and so we're looking at some areas, both at West. If you go back behind them, there's a large playground area that's has that kind of black plastic barrier around it. There's two areas at West we're looking at. And then at Abilene, we're looking at the entire preschool area, playground area that's actually has fencing around it. And then another large area there. This is also basically looking at taking everything out there and actually putting turf down there would actually be impact rated for, basically has to be rated for the fall, whatever they would fall from in those areas. So we're looking at doing those because both buildings didn't really want to needed to add a lot of equipment to that. So one of the options we were looking at is just trying to look at some other options and basically working with Hellas of doing these two areas. You can see Abilene, it would it'd basically be, I mean, between both areas, it would be about 12,000 square feet or a little under 12,000 square feet of space between both buildings. So just looking at approval. And then Hellas, they're the ones that do all over it. They've done all over the turf fields. And then we also have through Greenbush, they're part of the contracts and so forth, so we don't really have to do the bid process on this.
How does this affect was this a part of our?
Yes, it is a part of
25-year
our,
plan?
yeah, it is a part of our 25-year facility plan. Okay. So there was actually, budgeted was 215,000 was originally budgeted for this, and this is a total project, a little over 180, almost 186,000 for these two projects. So this would actually be done over the summer. They could do it sooner, but I don't really want to disrupt the playground, so we're going to look as soon as school's out doing these two projects.
So they're not going to pull the equipment, they're just going to cut out?
Yeah, they're actually going to go around the equipment and everything, so it'll be, they actually will come in and take everything out, put in a kind of a concrete curbing like you see around the football field, and then come in and put compact in there with rock, and then put the matting down and then turf down. So they'll actually go and cut around every piece of equipment or pole that goes into the ground.
What's the lifespan on it? Same as turf field, 10 years?
Yeah,
or so?
I would say, I mean, I'd say some of this is going to depend on the wear and tear of kids. I mean, you would hope that, a turf field will last you about 15 years.
Madam President, I move we accept the bid by Hellas for the playgrounds at West.
Second.
Abilene.
Motion by Spike, second by Sean. Any other questions, comments? All in favor? All opposed?
He raised his hand.
So 7-0?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't see his arm. It was behind Sean's head.
I'll move my arms back a little bit.
Okay, sorry, Sean. It's not a comment about the size of your head. It was just positioning.
I'm gonna miss you guys.
All right, well, next thing on the agenda, the KASB legislative resolution. So in a typical year, these would come to you in October for approval, and then that would allow the delegate that goes to the KASB convention to make sure to vote with those in mind. Unfortunately, these were not out at that time, so Spike went to the KASB convention, they approved these, and so really what the board would do tonight is approve these to ensure this is what I would, as I talk to legislators and different people throughout the state of Kansas, this is what our district stands for in terms of legislative priorities and state resolutions through KASB. So what I thought I would do is just go through, not the whole thing, but the changes. The changes are in red. Talk about those, kind of the rationale behind them, and then for both the state and the federal, and then we'll vote on these at the end. So under some of the changes for this year, the support, repeal, or clarification of the provisions of SB 113 regarding the disposition of district property. So last school year, there was an issue with a district closing a school building, and so that ended up getting into the legislature pretty heavily. And so they passed a law, they threw a law in there. That's something else to come. They can't bundle things. We would like that not to happen. But basically, any type of district property, the state would have the first right of refusal, no matter what the property was. It wasn't intended to be written that way, but let's say there's a lot of questions on this right now. Let's say that the Woods class, shop class builds a shed. Well, technically, that's district property. That's so if we were going to get rid of that and sell that, we'd have to take 45 days. We'd have to notify the legislature. If the legislature isn't in session, we'd have to wait for them to be in session. And then they would have to have the first right of refusal. They might want to buy it. So if you can imagine, there's been a lot of conversations because that wasn't the way it was intended, but that's the way it's been written. So KASB stance, our stance will be to clarify that if it's school buildings, because if it's something you want to sell in February and March, they're in session, that's great. But if it's in August, well, you're waiting until the legislature's in session to even mess with it. So part of it will be support the repeal or clarification of that policy. Next one right there, oppose arbitrary limits on taxes and valuations. There's talk in the legislature of perhaps putting a cap on assessed valuation, and that assessed valuations couldn't go up more than 4 to 5% in a year, and it would be capped. If that's capped as far as assessed valuation for districts such as Valley Center, what that would do is that would, obviously, you're going to have to, if you want to make just as much money as what we are, we'd have to up the mill levy in order to do that and raise taxes because of that assessed valuation. So KASB's position is to oppose putting those limits on assessed valuation increases. Next part is mandatory open enrollment. Last year, they talked about eliminating that. That was their position. Now it's brought up concerns about student safety in the receiving district because simply we have to take a student. No matter what issues they may have or their history, we would have to take that student. So there's concerns as far as student safety. Allowing school districts either current year enrollment or the greater the past two years enrollment to calculate state aid. We use the year before currently, but for growing districts, it would be advantageous to use your current year enrollment or the year before, and we can't do that currently. So that would be using the current year's enrollment to calculate your state aid. the CASHA rules as far as order to best serve students, oversight of all academic achievement, post-secondary success. So there's been rules put in place. Homeschool students, private school students, had the opportunity at KSB, talked to Bill Faflick from CASHA, the head of CASHA, and he talked about it. Some students from Rockhurst that are actually going to Rockhurst in Kansas City, but they're coming back across the border to swim at another school because their school doesn't offer it. So they can come back and swim at a different school. Homeschool, they can come in. There's multiple instances of kids that actually were failing classes, came back, they're homeschooled now, so they can go and play sports immediately because they're homeschooled. So since they were failing, they weren't CASHA eligible, but they can go and be homeschooled, and then they can go and participate in a sport because they don't have to meet those guidelines. So this would be ensuring that CASHA is setting the rules when it comes to eligibility and not the state legislature.
Isn't this really an effort to keep homeschooled students out? I mean, they can come up with a reason as to, I understand these things happening, but I think they have animosity and don't want homeschooled kids in at all. So my suspicion is that's ultimately the true motive. That's my concern.
Yeah, there's a lot of homeschool cooperatives and things like that offer different sports and things like that. So, I mean, I think homeschool kids have those opportunities. Typically, the kids that are enrolled in the public school are the kids that are going to participate in that sport and represent that school. I don't know that I'm not a legislator, so I can't tell you the rationale.
No,
KSB, KSB, CASHA's in place for a reason. Yeah. Right? CASHA's in place to set the rules when it comes to.
No, I'm saying CASHA has an animosity towards homeschool kids participating, and it's just, regardless if they're homeschooled or not, their parents pay taxes to the school district. And so that's my concern. I mean,
but they have to be
people abuse any policy, I get that, but I just question the true motive between KSB and CASHA.
But all students have to be held to the same academic standard as
I think
CASHA
what
would.
this is trying to achieve is to make sure that they can't circumvent it. But homeschool, they're not restricted to their home. I mean, they could be homeschooled here for.
It'd be their home
Rockhurst.
district where they live. So those kids that go to Rockhurst live in, I don't know the district they live in. They live in
So if a
Kansas City.
homeschool kid was to participate under this, the way they've written this, it would have to be, they would have to play at the school in the district that they live in
Right.
and be governed by the same CASA regulations that the kids that are in our public schools.
Not as far as grades and things like that.
But if we put CASA put in.
If this is what they're advocating
Yes,
for.
that's what
Yeah,
I'm
if these
asking.
things, yeah, if this
were
happened,
to come to be, this is what would the.
that's what they would want, is that they would have to
Something
meet the
wrong with
same
that?
expectations that the
I don't think
students that are
that's
in school.
animosity towards homeschool students. I think that's just making sure that everybody's playing on the same.
Well, and that's just after-school sporting events, so how do homeschool students would fit in competition with bands or choirs or other competition groups that meet during the school day?
I mean, we have multiple families that come into the district, and I mean, I know we let,
Well, as an individual, but as part of a group, I don't know how I can't recall of a band, of or somebody who, like the women's choir, that just sang tonight, how would they be able to go be a part of that meets during the day?
We've let students in to participate.
They do.
In choir.
yeah, they would come in and they would go to class.
Limited.
Yeah,
So they would just come to that class and then go?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We've done that for, I mean, I think a number of years with lots of different families. So, yeah. The next one, school districts and students engaged in entrepreneurial pursuits. So this is in response to, one of the things that came up last session was districts that have daycare facilities and things like that. There's a push from some legislators to not tax certain restaurants and things like that, because if a school isn't having to pay taxes, they're in direct competition. So then those businesses shouldn't have to pay taxes because the school district doesn't get taxed. So why should we have to pay taxes if the school doesn't have to? Which would cause, obviously, when you talk about property tax and things like that, if every restaurant didn't have to pay taxes, that would be detrimental towards our tax base. So, bundling K-12 appropriations with unrelated policies, proposals, and having a committee hearing. That's not an uncommon thing. They throw a bunch of things together, especially at the end, and there's a whole lot of bills and policies that get passed, and some of them are supposed to have a hearing before those things, and that doesn't always occur before you pass those things. So trying to keep things that are related to each other together and not bundle a bunch of things that aren't related together. Talks about grade level retention, local educators and families making decisions. So some of the things that have been talked about is perhaps taking a test. There's multiple states that do this. You have to pass a certain test, and if you don't pass it, you're retained. If you look at the research on retention, it's about the worst thing you can do to a student is to hold back a student, especially after a certain level. It's the negative effects. If you look at all the meta-analysis, it's not good. So this would just say, just because a kid doesn't pass a test doesn't necessarily mean we should hold back a student. And that should be the parent's right if they choose to do that. So, and then flexibility with CAPERS. The new CAPERS 3 that's been around for a few years. I saw an example just at the KSB conference. It compared a staff member that was CAPERS 3 compared to one that was CAPERS 2 that started the year before the other one, and their retirement was half of what the other CAPERS 2 was compared to CAPERS 3. So it's just as far as recruitment of staff and ensuring that they have a decent retirement plan, getting that bumped up. And then the last one, flexibility for school districts to avoid legal penalties if budget documents and hearing notices are not published in a timely manner. So it's happened multiple times across the state. We have to publish notices. We publish ours in the Ark Valley News. There's been multiple districts where the newspaper has messed that up or they forgot to publish it. the school district gets punished. They get in trouble for the newspaper making that error. And there's nothing we can do. That's the law. School districts have lost thousands of dollars because of if there's a 2 there instead of a 1. So this would just give us the flexibility that, I mean, it's not our error.
Can we pass that down to the newspaper?
Yeah. At least we got a good one. That's good.
Those are the state resolutions. So the federal resolutions talks about the federal government funding IDEA up to 40% as far as special education. We know with that, they funded at about 12% is where the federal government funds that. It's about a $223 million shortfall. So if they would do that, the 92% that the state has looked for were about 68%. It's 92 is supposed to be statutorily where the state funds special education. If they did that, we'd be able to fund that. It's about 12%. Title funds, one of the conversations at KSB as well is one of the proposals is to cut title funds by about 80% during the fiscal year. This next fiscal year, that would be about $320,000 if that gets cut here in USD 262. So don't think that's going to happen necessarily. They'll probably find a middle ground, but some of the proposals as far as cutting federal funds going to public schools are pretty big, pretty drastic. And I think, I don't know if there are any other changes. I think that was it. So, yeah. What questions over any of that? I know that was a lot fast.
I will say all those were approved at about 98% to 2%.
Questions, discussion?
Madam President, I move that we recommend the adoption of the KASB legislative priorities as presented.
Second.
Motion by Spike, second by Sean. All in favor? All opposed? 6-1. You're up.
Madam President, I move that we go into executive session for 15 minutes to discuss an individual employee's performance starting at 8:50, turning at 9:05.
Motion by Spike, second by Ben. All in favor? 7-0. Our personnel report.
All right, well, you'll see attached in your report, we have been able to hire quite a few paras, and some of that was a result of our para kind of hiring fair that we offered here a little over a month ago. So you see quite a few classified hires there. As of today, we are fully staffed on our bus drivers also. So that's a positive thing.
Yeah.
We're still short paras, but as you can see there, we have filled 8 positions of paras. So that's been a good thing. Several supplemental hires, filling track coaching positions, and so forth. And then as you look, and also attached on a separate attachment here, just our current open positions. You'll see those. Some of those have been, like, you look down like the bottom, a teacher. We have a teacher who's transferring from Wheatland to West for that position, for that teacher who, like that. But these other positions, like the fax teacher, we have a full-time sub in there right now, a certified sub in there. The math teacher, that is a recent resignation. Social studies, we did not fill at the beginning of the year. We just absorbed that position. Spanish teacher, we absorbed that position. And then the vocal position is also one that's been open since the beginning of the year. So we still have a few supplemental ones. Some of those ones, like I said, are kind of always up there. The one we're still looking at is HVAC technician. And then custodians, we're still currently short one custodian. West is in the process of interviewing right now for that. And then you'll see just some other substitutes and so forth. But I mean, it's been nice. We're still getting applicants in for different positions. One of the things we're looking at for coming up here in December that we're looking at hosting, working with Mr. Lear, Amy, and Teresa Alexander, our HR person, of hosting our own teacher recruitment fair here in district. I've talked to some other districts who've had very, very good success with that. So that's something that we haven't done before that we're going to try to do and try to recruit some teachers to our district in that way.
So I see the code is on here for the lot attendant.
Yes.
Am I missing the wrestling coach?
Yeah, yes. I did not get added. I apologize for that. We can still hire that position and then approve it next month.
That's
It's not
fine.
listed on here.
He was trying to find it and I couldn't find it either. So. Well, I have to tell you, I'm really sad that Ms. Paulson's leaving. She's like a fixture. Any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the personnel report.
Second.
Motion by Ben, second by Spike. All in favor? 7-0.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Ben, second by Spike. All in favor? 7-0.